Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandy Close, Director of American Community Media, formerly Ethnic Media Services. On behalf of ACOM and our co-host, the California Student Aid Commission, thank you for joining today's media briefing. The topic, Reaffirming California's Commitment to Immigrant, Refugee, and Undocumented Students. The federal free application for federal student aid, known as FAFSA, has experienced delays and data challenges this year, which cause confusion and anxiety for many families, especially immigrant and refugee communities who already face systemic barriers. That's why today's conversation is so important. The California DREAM Act application, known as CDAA, is more than an alternative. It's a lifeline that ensures all students, regardless of immigration status, can pursue higher education with dignity and support. We know that when trusted community voices and media amplify accurate, culturally relevant information, it leads to action. So today, we bring together leaders from the California Student Aid Commission, a student, a parent, and a college access organization to share what they're seeing on the ground and to reaffirm that California remains committed to equity in education. This is a story about inclusion, resilience, and the power of policy to uplift, not exclude, our next generation of leaders. Thank you for being part of this urgent and hopeful conversation. Dr. Gonzalez, you've joined us in the past. We welcome you back. Thank you, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Sandy. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you here, and I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do every day. To our colleagues who are here joining us, Christopher, Celeste, and the CSAC team, thank you for your work behind the scenes as well. We're here today to talk about students pursuing higher education, and specifically how financial aid can make those dreams possible. But of course, we can't ignore the reality, what is actually happening on the ground for many of our students and families. And so first and foremost, I'm here to talk about how we are all living in unparalleled times. And many Californians, yes, the Californians that we are neighbors with, our families, the teachers, the coworkers, everyone here in California is a Californian, how some of them are living in unprecedented times where their data is being shared between federal agencies to attack them and target them. We have students and families who, in the name of federal immigration enforcement, are being attacked. And so the truth is that our communities are in turmoil, that they are facing inhumanity, whether it is personal or through a lived experience of their family members, their neighbors, their coworkers, their teachers, their nurses, and yes, service workers who were once classified as essential workers during a global pandemic. That is the reality in which we operate today when we think about higher education and when we seek to support our communities and our students. Every day I hear from our students and our partners on the ground. Soon you will hear from some of them. The reality and the choices that our students are making. They are right now in survival mode. That is what they are doing. Many of them are thinking about not pursuing their higher education. The future seems very unlikely, and in particular, a future in this country. So I'm here to share the commitment of the California Student Aid Commission. We are the state agency responsible for administering more than $3 billion in financial aid. And I want to extend this message to all families, in particularly those that are being persecuted, those who are living through fear right now, that you are California. And from our eyes, You belong in California, and this state believes in you, and we want you and your children to succeed. So for all of those families, we know that you deserve a better future, and we are here for you. I am the proud daughter of immigrants. I'm also a first-generation college student, and so I know very closely the life-changing power of higher education. But I also know that top of mind for what is different from the reality that I live to the reality that we are living in today, the moment is very different. And the decision to pursue higher education is really about an action. Post-secondary education of tomorrow is an act of resistance and persistence for this generation. And so as we continue with this briefing, I want to share with you that our job at the California Student Aid Commission is to support every family. Right now in this state, we want our undocumented students, mixed status families, our refugees to apply for financial aid. And there is a safe pathway. That's the California DREAM Act application, CADA for short, CADAA. And it is an application that is California's application. That data is not shared with the federal government. It's very similar to 16 other states who also have their own financial aid application, and it is meant to serve the diverse populations within our state. The California DREAM Act application offers access to state aid for undocumented students who meet the non-resident tuition criteria, and most recently, it is an application that is used by mixed status families. That's an application where the student is a U.S. citizen and one or more of the contributors, parent or a spouse, does not have a Social Security number. It's very important that I also share with you that the California DREAM Act application is California's solution. It is data and information that is held in California, and we will do everything that we can to secure it, which is why I feel very comfortable sharing with you that we will do everything that we can to protect your data to the fullest extent of the law. That application and the data that students complete will only be used to determine state and institutional aid eligibility, and it is not shared with the federal government. So I want to end my remarks and really just say thank you to the colleagues who will be joining me, answer any questions that you may have, and just share that CADA, the California DREAM Act application, continues to be a beacon of hope for every Californian. And yes, that means our undocumented students, our refugees, our mixed status families, and every Californian who needs a safe pathway to apply for financial aid. So if you are here, we're really grateful that you're interested in this topic, particularly because we know that it's a lot harder to think about your future with everything going on in the world. I need you to know that the partners who are here from Unite LA, 10,000 Degrees, and many who joined us to do a press release last week, they will not back down. The California Student Aid Commission will not back down. We are mission-driven organizations with a very clear mission to serve and ensure that every California student has access to higher education and financial aid.
One question is, have you seen a decline in applications, particularly among students of with undocumented status, such as what we've seen in K through 12, with families not wanting to have their children go to school at a time they fear risking getting apprehended by ICE?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the most common questions that we get, particularly through our call center. Even individuals who have completed an application still have concerns. We are seeing those numbers decrease. While California as a whole is seeing increases in applications, we see concerning numbers, especially for undocumented Californians, mixed status families still today. And with many refugees, individuals who have different visas still living in peril, that is the third category of student who right now we are seeing fewer applications in our state.
So one of the challenges for us who serve communities where there are significant numbers of undocumented students and other vulnerable populations is to really encourage people to continue pursuing higher education. And you referred to that as an act of resistance. Could you say more about what you mean?
Yes, thank you for the question. So for me, it's that information is level one of the work. And I think about the work that we need to do, not just in providing information, but removing barriers. And that is a form of resistance. So for example, the California Student Aid Commission made sure that as we were building the California DREAM Act application, we could streamline processes, connecting AB 540, which is a state policy in California that allows for in-state tuition, aligning that so that the process could be streamlined, better partnerships with institutions. Those are acts of resistance because we are making pathways and systems work for individuals that have been historically and nationally told that they do not belong in higher education. On the other side of the message, when I think about encouragement and information, I think about the students and their families, the ancestors who arrived in this country before we all did, who had to resist. And so now we are asking people to be courageous, to put themselves on the line. And that is an act of resistance, choosing to pursue your dreams, choosing to apply for education and financial aid is an act of resistance for many of these communities who would otherwise have no access and whose ancestors and families have had no access in this country.
Is the California DREAM Act application for students who are applying to community college, or is it only state university and is it only the university system?
Got it. No, that's a beautiful question. You know, that's the complexity of financial aid. Here in California, we have two applications. As you mentioned, the FAFSA, the federal application, and then the California DREAM Act application, California's application. Those applications are really directed towards your pathway. So we want undocumented students, mixed status families to know that they have options, that they would be completing a California DREAM Act application. A mixed status family can also complete a FAFSA. And particularly with prior years of challenges for those families, some families fill out both. And behind the scenes, we figure out the process. Those applications are the starting point to access any public higher education entity. So private, which are like your USC's, Stanford in the world. Those are private colleges, University of California, California State University, and community colleges. They all have different deadlines. The importance for today's briefing is the student applies, they tell us where they intend to go, where they got accepted, and then we match their aid to their institution. And for us today, we have a very important September 2nd deadline here in the state of California. That's for students who want to go to a community college. That's the final deadline to be able to access aid if they plan on starting this fall.
Are the funds for the California DREAM Act application in any way in danger of being cut at a time so many programs that support communities are worried about losing funds or already have been sort of blue pencil but not yet confirmed?
From what I have seen, and I can tell you that I looked at numbers this morning, the governor has not signed a budget here in California, but I can tell you that there is a big commitment from the legislature, and soon the final budget will show that in California, financial aid continues to be a top priority. That also means that in this year's budget, California is not just funding the projection of how many students will apply, which is why we want undocumented students, refugees, mixed status families to apply, because we need to count them in and fund for them. But California is also preparing, not just in funding financial aid, but funding specific segments who serve these populations with additional support in those institutions, because we know that there are federal dollars potentially at risk. So hopefully the good news by the end of the week is that financial aid, higher education continues to be a priority in California. What I have seen in the budget so far confirms that.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Christopher Gonzalez. Christopher, please take it away.
Thank you, Sandy. So I think just to start, for over 44 years now since our inception, 10,000 Degrees has really stood firm in our belief and behind California immigrant, refugee, undocumented, and mixed status students and families. It's really kind of been the DNA of our work and something that, we really pride ourselves on and really supporting this community of students. I think, specifically with the California Dream Act, we existed before, that actually kind of began and really saw the kind of metamorphosis as it was put into implementation, with our communities and students, even leading up to today. And so I say that in just the preface of, we have seen thousands of students kind of have these opportunity doors open to them thanks to this legislation. And really seeing the cyclical impact it's had on them and their families, and frankly, for the betterment in our communities. So I think, for us and 10,000 Degrees, our, lane has really been focused on, first and foremost, supporting low-income students to and through college, but specifically with financial aid, specifically just given all of the barriers that have been noted today and the extra hoops that they have to go through to really have that opportunity. So I think for us, we're very, very proud and grateful to partner with the California Student Aid Commission, really focused on financial aid completion for marginalized communities. I think we're making sure that they understand about all the opportunities on the table, in a way that's, said in their language that is culturally relevant, and that's delivered by staff, our fellows, who are near peer, role models for them, who, as we've kind of spoken a little bit today, kind of have that really powerful narrative to show them that this is possible because they did it. So I think when all is said and done, and all the challenges that are in front of us and misinformation, so I'll pause there, but that's a little bit about us.
Thank you. We have an important question from Alicia Wong, which, Alicia, can you ask your question?
So probably some of the applicants are afraid of their data will be diverged to the federal immigration enforcement. So what's your advice?
I think what we have been advising students, again, with the California Dream Act application, essentially being that kind of safe space for them to really apply for state financial aid right now. And again, given the advice from Dr. Gonzalez, the hard work of the team here at CSAC, for us to really trust, that is secure and happening. And so, it really is thinking about what their motivations are. But I always say go at the speed of trust. And I think for us as an organization, we're not expecting students to fill out the application overnight. We're giving them multiple chances to think it through. We're saying it in a variety of different ways. And ultimately, whatever they decide, we will support them with no matter what. So I would say, again, go at the speed of trust. It is a family decision. And so that's something we've stayed firm with, and making sure that they're including their family members, that we're checking in with them to make sure that they're aware of what's going on and that their voices are heard. And there's a lot of beauty that comes in that, but a lot of real tough conversations. But I think our advice, again, is there's free financial aid available for you, and there's a community of supporters that are here. And so it's hard sometimes when we get lost in the news and the only negative, when the reality is there are also stories and people who are still persisting and making it and doing very well for themselves. And so our job is to make sure we find the balance, but make sure that those are uplifted as well.
Thank you. Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any thoughts on this question?
For many undocumented Californians, these are students who are undocumented, the California Dream Act application is their only option. So that concern is a lived reality, right? That's about trust and being able to provide information in real time. For mixed status families, it's a lot more complex. And for that one, Alicia, I think you hit it right on the mark, right? What do we do when there is a student who is a U.S. citizen and a family member or a contributor in that application could be at risk of being deported? And they're seeing everything in the news and in their communities. Those are the choices that Christopher was sharing, where we provide the student information. Our best advice is you want to weigh all of your options. The reality is many of these families, if this is a student who is continuing their education, that data already lives with the federal government. And so that is a concern for the family, but a very real reality. For brand new students who have never completed an application, their options are a little bit harder and they really think about their families. And so we give them all of the options. And Sandy, to your earlier question, I think it's really a complex system that is evolving day to day. And so at CSAC, we also do the proactive approach that if a student chooses to fill out a CADA because they're brand new, they've never completed it, it doesn't mean that they can never go back and complete a federal application. They're waiting for the right moment in time. And we have had situations where a family or a student complete both. And behind the scenes, we help them make that transition. Why? Because we want to make sure that they can succeed in their education, but we go at the speed of trust and also of the reality that they are living.
Let's go now to our speaker who is herself a student and who has navigated the financial aid process as an immigrant and or undocumented learner, and the importance for her of relying on the California Dream Act application and how it changed her life.
Yes. So hi, everybody. I am a first generation student. I do come from immigrant parents. And so I do do a lot of work in the field regarding supporting other students. I do want to kind of mention that I am a student who does fill out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. However, I have in my time working in education have supported many students with the California Dream Act, and I have seen how that application has supported our students for them to reach their higher education goals. I remember being in high school, filling out even financial aid, just the free application for federal student aid is already a tricky application for a student like myself, because again, it's just, how can I fill out this application? What's going to happen to my parent information? And even though for me it was years ago, I still see that prevalent today in our students and that concern that they have when it comes to filling out either the California Dream Act or the free application for federal student aid. As I'm now older and in my graduate studies, I'm fortunate enough to no longer have to need that contributor portion for me. So for me, it's like that safety net where I'm like, well, at least I don't have to include my parent information. Because of course, with everything going on, especially specifically right now in Los Angeles with the ICE raids happening, it's very heartbreaking and very inhumane. And I see that our students, their families are being targeted simply by the way they look. They've even had to go to the grocery store for their parents. They've had to be that front person to support their families in these hard times. And so as a current graduate in the counseling program at Cal State Long Beach, I get to support students like me who have similar backgrounds, who have similar upbringings, and who have even the same fears as me. I've had situations where students have had that conversation with me where they say, Celeste, what application do I fill out? I'm afraid, I don't know which one, right? And so it's again, having to have those conversations, then speaking with their families and being like, these are your options and we're going to lay them out for you and give you that information that you need. I want them to feel supported, and I want them to have all the tools and resources that they can need in order for them to take that next step in their future. I think that we as a community need to continue to present to the needs of our students and our families, and those students who come from mixed status households need to especially be supported and assured of their safety. We need to continue to make sure that they are being given the accurate information and timely updates, just like how we do, whether it's in the field or through CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission, how they're able to support our students. This is what I hope to also do in my current role at Unite LA. Is I just want to make sure to lead the Los Angeles regional efforts. I look forward to learning more and working more with students here as an intern. I do want to, though, acknowledge that the state of California has historically moved in the right direction when it comes to supporting our undocumented individuals, for example, like passing the legislation like AB 540 and the establishment of the California Dream Act. I have seen how that application has made it possible for our students that are undocumented to reach their higher education goals. And however, even though it's still like critical to continue the fight for the access of higher education, it's especially more critical for our undocumented communities. We want to ensure that they feel safe and supported in order for them to reach their goals in the future.
You spoke about students wanting to protect their parents and therefore avoid applying for aid. But as Dr. Gonzalez said, many students already, that information, it's a very difficult thing to have to work out as a young person. Tell us a little about your own decisions on that score and what makes you get up in the morning with a sense of your own future and the importance of higher education for it.
My future goals is to become a school counselor. So like I mentioned, I really want to support students that have similar backgrounds as me. I want to become that support that students can look to in order for them to realize that higher education is, possible for them.
I want to really thank each of you for helping us get a closer feeling for how we can encourage people in our audiences to consider higher education, to not give up, to believe that there is support not only in the form of the California DREAM Act application, but also groups like 10,000 Degrees. Thank you to all for joining.